Live streaming is on.
All right, welcome everybody to the Bond Oversight Committee meeting. My name is Taylor Giles. I'm the committee chair. We have Chad as a member of the committee here, and then a number of others that are reporting out. Because we do not have a quorum, we will be skipping the minute approval, and we will be doing that at the end if more people show up from the committee. Otherwise, we'll be postponing that. Was there any public comment that was arranged for before this?
There was no public comment.
Okay, thank you for that. Item 4 on our agenda is future plans for our next topics. We look to be discussing the technology purchases and the curriculum. I know that some of the curriculum was reported out at the school board meeting last year. Or last month? Is it the same curriculum that we're going to be talking about, or is this all the curriculum? What are our thoughts there, Jim?
The intent is actually to kind of do a full review of the curriculum, both what we've previously adopted, what we're in the process of adopting, and then what the next 7 years of adoptions look like as we get out to the end of the 10-year curriculum cycle. And that's actually true of the technology side as well, kind of talking about our process thus far and how those remaining funds will be spent over the next 7 years to keep our district at a 1-to-1 ratio for students to devices.
Great. One other thing, and when you reach out to the people who will be reporting on the curriculum, and I'm speaking more as a parent here, I think there's a marketing problem where it feels like sometimes we're adopting curriculum very quickly after adopting other curriculum. And so I'd love to, and I know that that's just a perception thing because some of our curriculum is way out of date, but it's one of those things where being able to explain, here's the curriculum we're going to have, we intend to use it for this amount of time, here's what we're going to check to make sure that it's working, or here, you know what I mean? Like all of those things that we would do from a project standpoint to be able to have measurable things. And by the way, that's just giving us an awareness of all of the work that goes into selecting it and validating it and all the other stuff. So if they could even just speak to that on a slide to say, hey, this is the new English curriculum, we expect it to last for 5-6 years, here's how we're going to know after a year whether it's working or not, and blah blah blah. So I'm not going to tell the teachers their business. I as a parent, I'm interested in understanding the expected lifespan of a curriculum as well. So
I really appreciate that comment. I will make sure that Gary, who's going to provide that for us, understands the need to really talk about ODE and their replacements or their curriculum cycles, because they have kind of a calendared out when districts ought to be adopting different curriculum. So I'll make sure that he goes into that in some depth as well.
That's great. Thanks. All right. So let's move on. Is there any comments, Chad, by the way, about these future topics, technology, curriculum, anything that you'd like to add to the agenda?
Eric,
no, I'm good.
Thanks too.
Okay.
Yeah, Taylor, I'm here too, buddy.
Oh.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Oh, there you are, Eric. Oh, sorry, you joined late.
No. I was on time.
Oh, you're on time. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. But no, I have nothing to add.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Let's go on to the fiscal report. The financial summary, is that going to be, Jim, are you going to lead that, or do you want me to go over it?
I'd be happy to go over it. I'm just going to hit the highlights. I think you probably all have the link there. So the points I would like to show is the new high school. We're continuing to spend at a pretty good clip, even as we get down here to the end. So the last time you saw this document, the total we'd spent was about 165 million. We're now up over 183.5 million. So we have about 24 to go on that particular budget. The transformations, you're starting to see the committed to date tick up a little bit from last time you saw it. And that's just a reflection of the letters of authorization that we continue to sign for each of those. And then just the total overall bond budget was at about 207 million spent or paid to date, I should say, the last time you saw it, and we're now at about 226 million. So we're spending roughly 7 to 9 million a month across our projects. Any questions on that part of the financial summary?
No, this is Eric. I'll say I went back and I looked at the financial summary from September of 2017 from our meeting, and things are really on track. I mean, we moved some money around and there was some stuff added, but overall it's very impressive.
The team gets a lot of credit for working really hard to try to make sure that we stayed within budget. And frankly, the way that Cornerstone puts it together, in some respects, doesn't really allow us to go over budget. And so I appreciate that. And we're getting down to the wire. So we're watching every penny now, even more so than we used to.
Well, good job, everyone.
Yep, good job. And I'll say that it actually has taken some of my cynicism about government out of my life, which when I joined this, I was much more cynical about especially local government, and it has enthused me to see and encouraged me to see the care that's being taken, and in fact, it's even encouraged me to get more involved in it. So thank you for the work your entire team's doing. All right, let's go on to the next part of the financial. Hold on, I got to get my agenda up here. The project roll-up. Is there anything you'd like to highlight on that?
No, actually, I just open it up to any questions. If anybody has had a chance to review it and has questions, I'd be happy to look at those individual pages for you. Again, we're working really hard to keep ourselves within the budgets that we have.
Is there anything that, especially with the additional precautions that the virus and different things that have happened that have caused costs to go up, that we should be aware of for the individual things?
And I'll have Rick join me if there's anything he wants to add. But really, we're watching very closely with our subcontractors and contractors about what they say the COVID impacts are. And although we've been notified that there could be, thus far we haven't, in my estimation, really seen much in terms of a direct cost related to the COVID. We've had some delays in getting a few things, and we've had maybe a little, fewer workers on site that has slowed things a bit. But as of yet, we haven't had a significant impact to the budget. Rick, would you concur with that, or do you have another?
No, I agree 100% with what you said, Jim. Well, what I would add for the Oversight Committee is the contracts that are used, and they've been through, attorney's office in Portland for decades. Anytime the contractor believes something will cause a cost or schedule impact, they have to put us on notice. And every contractor has put us on notice. Some subcontractors working for our general contractors have put the general contractors on notice. They forwarded every one of those that they've received to us. We're monitoring it weekly in our owner, architect, contractor meetings, which we have at all the projects. We're anticipating to see some cost. We are kind of preparing ourselves financially for that. But the honest answer is we have not received a change order request that had any specific current cost on. I think as the projects end, that's when we'll see the paperwork, but the team's ready to deal with it. We'll pay what we believe is an actual impact, and we'll push back on the things that we don't think were an actual impact. Does that help?
That's great. Fantastic. Yep, that's all we can expect in this strange time, and so thank you for that. Any other comments on the fiscal things from any member of the board?
Quick question, Eric, here. On the middle school transformation, any issues with existing conditions or anything like that? How's that going, or do we even know yet?
Katie, if I may, will you jump in on that one?
Yeah, actually, the interesting thing, the middle school transformation is probably the one that's going smoothest right now. The other three, we have some electrical issues. It's probably the biggest thing that we've found. Our dirt work's going really well. We haven't found any the stuff that we did at EST. You know, it's good dirt. So, and the same thing with what we've seen early on at Hopkins, the DOT. So, middle school go as well as the right now. The interesting one is the ridges. There was a lot of underground conduit that has popped up that we were expecting it to come from overhead. So we're dealing with that as it comes up, as you know.
Good update, Casey. What I would add to that for the committee is we budgeted for unforeseen conditions when we built the budgets. And when we balanced the budgets after all the bids that we received, both from general contractors or general contractors from their subcontractors, we established the standard percentage for unforeseen conditions, bad dirt, things we find behind walls. So far, we haven't found more than we can afford. So it's a daily issue. Casey and Mary Dolan, a couple of project managers that from Cornerstone are working on it. They're dealing with it every day, but as long as we don't find more than we budgeted for, we could have a good outcome.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions about the fiscal part of this? Okay. Let's review the schedule. Jim, if you want to take us through anything we need to know about those dates.
Yeah, construction dates, we've started and for transformations. So there's lots going on in those buildings, and you can see as you drive by, many of them have work going on outside, which is kind of fun and exciting for the community to see. And we've had some portables taken down, which is very visible. So that's kind of construction dates. And I did want to point out that we do have on the schedule the dedication of the new high school and the ribbon cutting. Given the current circumstances, we'll have to wait and see what we end up doing with those dates. So,
okay, fantastic. Any comments about the schedule for from any of the bond members or the bond committee members? Okay. Updates. Let's walk through those. Are those you, Jim, as well?
actually, I'm going to ask Casey to cover A and B, and I'll ask Ken to cover C and D, if I may. Or at least C, and maybe Casey can do D.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. New high school is it's very exciting what's going on up there. I mean, I don't know if many of you have been able to get up there much because of the way that the traffic flow is right now. But I mean, our latest aerial photo, I mean, we got green grass growing everywhere pretty much, except for kind of close around the building where we're wrapping up that final bit of landscaping. All 4 parking lots are asphalted. The final brick is in. We're waiting on the final pieces of sheet metal on the outside for that main entrance. Got a little bit of piece of yellow. That was one of our COVID concerns, where we had just the last bits of sheet metal kind of hit a snag there, and that's due to arrive in the next week. Inside the building, the brick team has gone through and they've punched, following Skanska's pre-punch of all of the classroom wings and A, B, C, D, E, and F and G even. There's a few, the shop classes out in G are still kind of are the trail of the G section there, and so we're doing good with finishing all these punch lists up, and kind of the final phase of completion of construction is happening in the commons and auditorium area right now, and so it's just a really concentrated effort to kind of wrap up the final pieces as we head through the end of the month, and we've already got scheduled turnover of the office for next week, where we're going to start building the administration furniture to move them in on the 15th of June. So pretty exciting up there right now.
Casey, this is Jim. Can you go back to punch list, since not all of our committee members are in the construction trade, and explain a little bit of what that is, what that process looks like, and what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And Karina, jump in anytime to help me on this. But basically, what Skanska's done really well is they've gone in and they use a Procore as their construction management software system. They've gone through and they've tagged all the areas that they've done what they call their pre-punch, and hit the obvious things with paint and marked up walls and put those all in there. And then the brick team follows that with a more strenuous punch list, kind of identifying the scope items that are incomplete or maybe may not be per spec, and there's very few of those, but they do happen. And then also obviously the aesthetic finish of it, and that it's complete to the standard that they're in their specifications intended. And so that develops into a pretty long list on the building this size. And I mean, Brick has had people out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday since I think about a week and a half ago. So they're really working hard to kind of stay ahead of the Skanska team and give them plenty of time to get it wrapped up for a successful turnover for us.
Sorry, did you say Rick and team are the ones doing the punch
No,
list?
Brick, the architect.
Brick.
Yes.
Okay.
No, not Rick. Rick would not be allowed on the punch list walk, but he does much better things elsewhere.
Okay. Is there somebody from the school district that's there that says, yep, this is what we wanted, and it's the quality we were expecting, I guess?
Good question, Taylor. I'll take that one. We have to be really careful how many people we put on the evaluation team. The contract's really clear that the architect and their engineers are the only legal interpreters of the document. For example, we have hundreds of pages of plans, multiple hundreds of pages of specifications that clarify what we want. We have asked Ken to walk around and identify anything that he's concerned about, but that information would flow to Brick, and it would be added to Brick's punch list. But in general, we rely on the architect and their engineers to confirm that what was designed we got. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I just, I keep thinking back to that light switch in the middle of the whiteboard at the room we used to meet in. Somebody walked through the punch list and said that was okay for that light switch to be there. And so I'm wondering if just, yes, it may match an architect's eye. It may not match a teacher or an administrator's eye. And so that's the only. I'm not going to start something here. I get, and I've learned that I can trust the people who have been kind of assigned to do this. I just, if Ken's going to walk through it and give it a once over, I think that's probably good enough for me. So.
This is Ken. Actually, I'm in the school a couple hours every week, and I've done way more than a once over. I have raised concerns about things I had concerns about all along the way. And I still do every day or two. I'm raising concerns about things. And so
Great.
I am definitely taking that eye with it and making sure that the school vision is fulfilled.
Okay, that's all I need to know. That was my concern is put to rest.
This is Jim, and I don't know the story behind that light switch, why it is the way it is, or will soon be the way it was since we're remodeling that area. But I can tell you that there's no way Karina would allow that today. It wouldn't happen.
No, we've got a pretty meticulous group out there today in the past few weeks. So
yeah,
our team's doing a great job.
And honestly, it's one of those things that it's not I don't think it's anybody's intention or anything like that. It is something that me as a product manager, sometimes when I look at something, all day, every day, forever, and I bring it to somebody who's never seen it, they point out something ridiculously obvious that I've been overlooking. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much for that. All right. Any other comments about the updates?
Actually, let's
The
county road work.
new school, number A. Sorry.
Yeah. So moving on to the county road work. So if you've driven along Edie and the Elward interchange, you're starting to see that stoplight going in. They've started mounting the pole today. So that's a pretty big milestone for us, is getting all that signaling in. I think I mentioned that Haiti and Elward was complete already. The kind of the big issues with the county road work right now is there's a PG pole that's kind of in the way on 99E. They had some delays with COVID getting kind of the people in close proximity for the sides of the wires that are up there. They needed 2 people that needed to be close, so that caused a bit of a delay. And so there's a little bit of a trickle down happening with not getting that Elwert as complete as they wanted to be by now. And I was on the conference call this morning. We're working through those issues and trying to get back on schedule to get that paved date in June. So right now it's not as smooth sailing as they were before, but they're working toward a completion here early summer.
So early summer meaning end of June or July or
early? The goal is end of June. There's just a lot of kind of unknowns with the PG piece, and then some underground being that have to once we get the tie-in to the 99 road. So it's a little bit of a moving target today, but the goal is definitely early June. I mean, by the end of June.
What I would add to that is that when we establish completion dates for all the projects, really, we build in float in the event that something happens that we need to extend the schedule. And we did it at the high school. The county did it. We worked with them on the dates. And so there's float in our schedule that says, for example, we originally wanted all the offsite work done. I'll just pick a date. We'll say June 15th, which would have aligned with moving staff in and everything else that we've been planning on. As we run into challenges with utility companies not doing work as quick as the contractor wants, and that's been the main issue. We did not run into much unsuitable soil for all the excavation that we've done. We did find some utilities with equipment that we had to have the contractor repair, but we feel confident that unless something else happens, both the offsite work, the on-site work at the new high school, and the building itself will be done in enough time that we're already planning on when we're going to move teachers' contents in from the existing or the old high school. We're already working on when the new desks for students and teachers come in. The students' chairs that we worked on, they're going to be here on time. So the good news is we've got a few things to work out with utilities, but we feel confident that Kerr, the contractor, will find a way to get it done unless we find something new sometime in late June, worst case, middle of July.
Great. Thanks, Rick. Any comments about the county road work from any of the board members or committee members, I guess? Okay. Next update. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
I'm good. No question. No other comments.
All right. Jim, who's doing the next update? I can't remember.
Ken is.
Yeah, this is Ken. I'm going to cover moves As you know, in I think it was April 16th, the governor announced that they'd be closing schools for the remainder of the year. After we had spent about 6 months developing a comprehensive move and construction plan, we had about 6 days to rewrite that plan and create a whole new world. We gave our staff, teachers, and other staff members about 2 weeks to get packed up in late April. And on May 4th or May 5th, we began moving out of all of the transformation schools, at least out of all the areas that would be under construction, which at DOT was the entire building. At EST is the majority of the building, except for one of the main gyms and the cafeteria. And then at MST, we moved everything to the gyms and cafeteria. And so in order to be able to start construction, and we were able to successfully be out and allow our construction partners in all 4 projects to begin work on Monday, May 11th. And they were all able to successfully do that. Because of that, we are already ahead of pace on the majority of those projects, which we need because we know with COVID there may be some potential slowdowns or some acquisition of things. Procurement may slow down and some things like that. So we've helped give ourselves a bit of a cushion by being ahead, because it's only May 27th, and technically on the majority of those projects, except some of it at EST, we wouldn't have even started those until June 15th. So we have a bit of a head start, which will definitely help us. And so those moves were very successful in helping us get started early. And it did put a lot of stress on our district staff, because they had to come in at a time when everyone was staying home, come in and get packed, and we had to bring them in shifts and at times, so we didn't have everyone in there at the same time, and provide all the support, and delivered thousands and thousands and thousands of boxes to schools and tape and all kinds of things. And so, but it was very successful, and we started on time. Our next move now is once the high school is complete, that's the first domino that has to fall, and then we'll be moving the contents from the current high school to the new high school. And that will allow us to start moving the other things into those buildings. Maybe not into classrooms until construction is complete, but at least into the buildings themselves, and to start to disperse it into the classrooms as they become complete. So that's it on moves. I could take any questions people might have.
This is Jim. Ken, can you talk a little bit about the excellent work your team did through self-perform and the results of that?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So one of the things we did is moving, and paying professional movers is an expensive endeavor. It was necessary because we needed to move hundreds and thousands of boxes and furniture in a very short time period. But what Casey and I tried to do is we tried to identify areas that our team could participate in the move. And so we moved a lot of things that didn't require, like moving refrigerators or things like that. My team was able to move a number of things, and we saved $33,000 on our move bill by self-performing a number of those moves with employees we were already paying, some of which were just staying home at that point, and we were able to pull them in and use them in the moves and save a significant amount of money out of the bond. So
yeah, some of that stuff was that IRN stuff, and we got that report today that was pretty interesting. I don't have it in front of me, but then so IRN is an organization who takes furniture the schools no longer need, if we have a surplus like we did, and they distribute it to third world countries. And 66% of our stuff went to Bahrain, and 33 went to Sudan, I believe, which was pretty cool. So that was some of the work that the district staff did, is loading that truck.
The types of items that went to IRN were like the attached desks and chairs, which we just don't use in our classrooms any longer. It doesn't meet with the way teachers teach this in this day and age. And so those are the kinds of things that we were able to send along and have them get reused in a new way outside of our district.
This is Rick. If I could add just
That's great
one
to hear.
to what Ken and Casey and Jim have shared with you. I've been doing this for a long, long time, worked on literally hundreds and hundreds of moves over the years. Not the movers that we use, we tend to use the same movers. They're approved by the state. We can get to their bids successfully. Some of the team that was out at one of the projects said to my move manager that it was the best job they'd ever seen teachers pack ever. That is, that's a new high. The other thing that I would add is the principals became absolute move champions because they were putting the move plan together and explaining the move plan and all the work that we did is one thing. And sometimes it breaks down at the school. What these principals did, in my opinion, was unbelievable. And I would just want the committee to know those two things as well.
I mean, we couldn't have done it without our teaching and instructional aid and classified staff. They did an amazing job under challenging circumstances to get it packed up and ready to go. And they gave us that head start. And I'm truly appreciative to that group for doing that.
This is Taylor. Yep. Thank you very much. I'm glad to see that you were able to put staff members to work and also save money and do good for others with the extra equipment instead of, throwing it out. And so all of those things are fantastic. Thanks for that report, Ken. Any other comments from any other board member or bond committee members?
Just great job. That's awesome.
All right. Next, Ken. Is that it?
Ken and or Casey on transformations.
Did you want to take this or you want me to?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So I got started with at EST. It's the furthest one along. We got a good spring break start, as you guys know, on that one. They've really, the exterior excavation in the back is all complete. Getting ready for kind of backfilling that with the playground equipment and fill material as required for that. The parking lot, we demoed the share center and that little garage that was there last week and kind of getting ready to start putting that back. And that's kind of the big things you see on the outside of the building. Inside the building, the demolition of the auditorium gym is complete with the exception of kind of the holes that we're going to dig for the new student stairway downstairs and seating area. They have excavated the foundations under there and we're kind of working through some constructability areas in there. That was one of the rooms where we found some glue lamps we didn't expect and a lot of wire that was not where it was supposed to be. So that one's been taking quite a bit of time to kind of figure it out and get it right and make sure that it's the space that we had intended. So that one's moving along and a lot of good efforts by our team to find good solutions that are cost efficient. Over in the library, the library becomes 3 classrooms. That demo's complete. They're starting to structurally put that back together, and then working our way up through the remainder of the building. The wood shop is taking place. It's all the demo in there, and it's starting to take shape into a new classroom. So EST is just it's probably, as you've all known, it's going to be our biggest transformation inside. It's truly a pretty impressive just endeavor for a summer / 6-month project, and getting that head start has been just tremendous for them. Bill's the superintendent out there, so that was huge. Moving over to EST, you guys probably seen the fence up, but a lot of what you're going to see, you aren't going to see a lot of what we're doing out there. A lot of it's in the back. If you were to go walk the track over there at the middle school, you'd be able to kind of peek into that backside there. You'd see all the playgrounds down. The 3 portables are removed, and we've got kind of a haul road in there where we're working our way from the west to back to the east now with our new road that's going to be over there. Inside the building, they're doing a pretty significant amount of abatement in that building, and so our abatement teams with our environmental testing groups are in there making sure that the spaces are clean and clear and ready to put back for construction. Probably the biggest challenge we're facing there is just making classrooms into office spaces has its own electrical challenges. So myself, Ken, and the designers were with the contract figuring out good solutions to kind of make sure we have power and data in the right spots that were cost efficient and met the needs of the staff that'll be in there. So that's kind of how we're overcoming the challenges that are there, and it's going well. They're making good progress. The ridges, it's pretty cool to see kind of the interior taken apart down there. Obviously, a newer building with metal studs, like I mentioned earlier. Kind of what we're finding there is just the conduit that we expect to be overhead is underground, and so we're working through those issues and how to make that work. It's kind of a really similar tenant improvement project that we've seen before, and you know the Russell team out there is they've got 2 superintendents out there right now with one that's half-time that was supposed to be there, and so we're getting a little bit of extra attention. It's really showing because getting some good quality construction, and it's moving real quick, so that's been good. The playground out back starting to be excavated, and so you can see that progress if you're out there walking as well. Over at MST, that one's another one where you have to go around back to see the good progress that's going on outside. But that covered play structure, there's a significant amount of utilities that has to be rerouted there. The biggest challenge we're running into right there is the water line that runs right through the middle of our property is actually a public water line. So we have kind of been put on hold to figure out if we can use a C900 pipe that we had already intended on using over there, and so working with the city on how to that solution. Inside the building, you know, a lot of demolition going on in the locker rooms. They're kind of working their way from the back of the building forward to give us more time to be in there with our administration team that doesn't really have a home now until the new high school's finished. So they're out there kind of focusing their attention out back there. And then we have abatement going on in kind of the middle science classroom area where we're converting 4 2 of them were science classroom, one was a science storage room, into 4 working middle school science classrooms. So that's kind of the big abatement area. So it's a good team over there. Also, a team that we've worked with, Triple Ullman, on 2 projects over at the Hopkins and the middle school campus 2 years ago, and so Rick and I have done a lot of projects with them. So very confident in all of our teams, and so far they've proven that they're very well qualified to give us a good quality project on time, on schedule. So pretty excited about it.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from committee members on transformations or any of the build out things? Okay. Let me find my correct tab for my agenda. I'm working with only one monitor here, guys, back like the olden days. Let's see. All right. So we are now onto variance report. Jim, do you have, or Rick? Is that you?
This is Rick. Jim has asked me to prepare an update on the variance report, so I'll be glad to provide that to the Oversight Committee. The biggest variance has been caused by the virus. The 4 things that have impacted all of our projects because of the virus have been: some manufacturers shut down for a short period of time, and so our orders didn't all get manufactured when we wanted them. Some manufacturers decided we're doing essential project manufacturing only, and in our opinion, schools aren't essential. They were focusing on healthcare and some of the other projects that they were manufacturing products for. So we had to roll up our sleeves and work with our general contractors and our subcontractors and find a way to convince them that school construction is essential. It was deemed that way, and so we've been very successful. We're still chasing some finished products, that we don't need to have to occupy this school with staff and students. So the things that we need to get code compliant occupancy, fire alarms, fire sprinklers, elevators, those systems, we either have them done or we know when they're going to be done. The other major impact is all contractors said, don't come to the site. Meetings have gone online. We've all learned how to do them. Some are better than others, but we're now coordinating schedule issues, budget issues, and other issues like that remotely. Labor has stayed relatively consistent. The high school, for example, back when we had probably the most people on site, there were times when we had almost 300 plumbers, electricians, painters, different subcontractors on the site. As we get more complete, the number of labor that we need reduces. When we first had the kind of schedule changes from COVID, we were still getting 239 people on that site at the high school. That does not count the people that are working on the offsite work for Kerr and county projects. Other big impact is there has been a tremendous focus to sanitize construction areas. We write in our contracts that you need to keep the site clean because clean sites are safer, the attention to detail is better, and we've just benefited from safe sites. So the contract said you got to keep the site clean, and if you're not keeping it clean enough, we're going to ask you to do better. But it did not anticipate that we would set up sanitation stations, and that we would actually sanitize certain areas in between staff working. And then having construction labor on all of our projects, this is the biggest summer of the bond because of the transformations, because of the ripple effects of moving so much staff. This is the summer that if it goes well, great. If it was gone poorly, the ripple effect could have been tremendous. But as labor had to work 6 feet apart, it slowed things. We had an example of some of the windows at Cascade Point, that large stairway at the high school that we call Cascade Point. It's a 4-story building, beautiful stairway, beautiful glass around it. Some of the glass that we needed to put in weighed 320 pounds. And we couldn't, there was no way one person could do it, and we didn't have the approval from the state to have 2 people work closely. We waited for a while to see if restrictions would be reduced. When they weren't, we asked the contractor find a way. They actually went to OSHA, got approval, so that if we put the glazing installers together, we put them in pretty much jumpsuits to keep their bodies separate from anything that was happening. We put masks on them, we put respirators on them and gloves on them. And so then we were able to put that in, and it's my understanding that that's in. But the combination of manufacturing slowing, meetings becoming a little more challenging, the good focus on sanitizing both people and work surfaces and the labor, that, in my opinion, has been the biggest variance that we've dealt with in the last 8 weeks. Good news, sometimes variance creates challenges, sometimes it creates wonderful opportunities. Because children or students did not come back, we were able to start all the transformation projects earlier. We think that's going to give us tremendous ability to either get them done earlier, which would be a great impact, or get them done on time, which is also acceptable. Each team is working through that independently at their sites. Another variance is we've extended the schedule for the high school twice. When we first put that project out to bid, the completion date was April 15th. And the reason we had that is I wanted a tremendous amount of variance so we could extend the schedule if necessary and still get the school ready for staff. School construction is about getting it ready for the teachers. Some people believe it's about getting it ready for the kids, and they paint, the weekend of Labor Day, and the teachers aren't ready. We get them ready for teachers. We may have to extend the schedule at the high school one more time based upon some rework that we've had to do in certain areas. But right now we're looking at the end of May, which still is ahead of when we need it for moving staff in, for moving contents in, and for completing the move in. So staff, when they come back in August, are really ready to get ready. And then lastly, one variance is the amount of repair work that the inspectors collectively identified on the offsite work has been above normal, in my opinion. When you do that offsite work, you put in big sanitary sewer lines down. We dig big trenches and we put them in. We do the same with stormwater. We have all the utilities, both electrical, gas, and cable that we had to work with. But the amount of repair work that was required and kind of caught by the inspection team has made what we're doing there, in my opinion, something that we're doing more repair work than normal, but we're making sure that the public work, so the public ends up owning the work we're doing there. They own the sewer lines, they own the water lines, they own everything. But I've been super impressed with what the inspectors have found. Sadly, they found more than I would have wanted them to, but they're still doing a great job. So those are the variances that we're dealing with, in my opinion. We're not done, so there could be some more, but I think what's been amazing about this team, and this starts really from Heather and Jim and Ken and the contractors that we picked and the designers that we picked, every team, when they needed to perform and overcome a challenge, has. And that's what you want in this business, is you just want to hire great teams and have them perform. So those are the variances I know about so far. I'd like to finish the projects with no more if that's physically possible.
All right, we won't order any more pandemics. All right. Any questions about the variances or the variance report? Okay. Let's see. Let's do the focus topics. Rebranding.
Thanks, Taylor. This is Jim. I have the honor to introduce one of my colleagues, Christine Andrig. She wears many hats in this district, including executive assistant to the superintendent, board secretary, but the hat she's wearing tonight, the reason she's here is as our public information officer. She has led a rebranding effort across the district along with the superintendent. That's been really, frankly, exciting to watch, and it's kind of coming to fruition here right at the end of the bond, which is perfect timing. So we thought tonight would be a good opportunity for her to come and share a bit about that effort. And with that, Christine.
Thank you, Jim, for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see the presentation okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so tonight I'm very excited to share with you just kind of an overview from start to finish of about a year, almost a year and a half's worth of work working on rebranding. And it's been such an exciting project. I have served as the district liaison on this project, and I've gotten to work with administrators and stakeholders and staff members all across the district. And it's just been really awesome, and it's exciting to share with you. So here we go. So just an overview of the topics I'm going to present tonight. I'm going to discuss the process that we use to develop our mission and vision statements, a district logo, as well as a lot of school level branding deliverables. I'm also going to discuss some key takeaways from the overall project and then share with you the final recommendations that have been adopted by our board of directors. And then also I'm including a sneak peek of our website redesign, which is also happening as part of this project, and that website goes live July 1st. So just to provide you a timeline of our project, this work really started in January of 2019 when Dr. Cordy, a member of our board of directors, and myself interviewed several branding agencies. And in those meetings, we discussed all of our bond projects as well as the needs of our district related to the rebranding. From those meetings, we selected Murmur Creative as our branding consultant agency. Our selection of Murmur was related to their high level of professionalism, which was evident in all of their presentations. Also their strong value on relationships, which mirrors our own district values, and that's something we highly value. Also, we chose them for their cost efficiency. For the scope of our project, they were really efficient in helping us cut costs when compared to some of the other agencies we met with. Throughout the spring of 2019, we were in the planning phase. So we worked closely with Murmur's team to plan logistics and really get our minds around like what are the deliverables that we need. That information was shared with our board of directors in June 2019. And then throughout the summer of 2019, we continued planning to make sure that all of our all of the rebranding project was going to align with other things happening in our district, including strategic planning that was going to take place and preparing for Student Success Act dollars that were coming our way. So in fall of 2019, we started work on what I have come to call phase one. So this was the phase that focused on district level work, including our mission vision statement and our district logo, as well as choosing names for the transformation schools. And then in February of this year, we began phase two. So that phase included mascots, logos, and colors for all of our transformation schools, as well as a refinement of our high school branding package to create kind of a more cohesive package overall for all things related to the high school brand. All along the way, we did have stakeholder involvement, and that was really important to us to make sure our stakeholders were represented in this project. So each distinct level of work from the district to each of the schools individually had work groups comprised of stakeholder representatives. So all of these groups included a board member, a school administrator, one or more certified staff members, a classified staff member, one or more parents. And then for our district level work, I served as a representative of our executive team. We did extend invitations to several of our high school students to participate in work both at the district level and on the high school team. However, due to sports and activities and after school jobs, we just weren't able to find students that were able to participate in our meeting schedules. However, we did engage student feedback in other ways, including surveys throughout the process and administrators having conversations with both students and staff. So we did, have to kind of think outside the box for how to get their participation in the process. So looking a little deeper at phase one, this group really this level of work got underway in September of 2020 to work on the mission statement. This was kind of the kickoff of all of the rebranding work because we knew that the values and the identity for our district that came out of that process were going to inform a lot of the other elements of the work. So our stakeholder group began meeting in an initial meeting and then had some feedback rounds through email to help refine that mission statement and finalize it. And our executive team also weighed in on that process. For the vision statement, This was done in complete alignment with our strategic planning process. We had a committee that began meeting throughout the fall, led by a facilitator, to kind of outline the district's goals and objectives for the next 5 or so years. And we wanted the vision statement to align with that process to make sure that it represented the objectives and goals that came out of that meeting. So one of the ways that we did this was we had a member of Murmur's team attend one of those committee meetings, and we had Mike Dugas, our strategic plan facilitator, meet separately with Murmur's team to collaborate on creating drafts of the vision statement for us to review and approve. So later in the fall, we shifted our work to the district logo. The work involved in the logo development was really intensive. It started in early October of 2019 and continued that year through mid-December. We started by exploring overall themes, looking at logos from a variety of businesses and other schools, and really weighing in detail about what we liked and didn't like about some of those logos. We continued to refine the logos over a series of 5 meetings, and the final meeting was where we got to select our colors, which was really an interesting process. Part of the way Murmur approaches this work is to not look at colors till the very end, so that way people aren't swayed by, oh, this draft is in yellow and I don't like yellow, so therefore I don't like that version. So after working for 4 meetings completely in black and white, it was really exciting to get to see some color options and to select the one that we felt best suited the logo. The transformation schools during phase 1 met in 2 meetings, one on October 28th of 2019 and then again in November 18th. So they worked really efficiently across those 2 meetings to brainstorm, name ideas, and then create a final list, which was shared out district-wide with students, staff, parents, and community members in surveys to help us narrow down and select our names going forward. And then all of that work in phase 1 was completed and taken to the board in January for adoption and approval. In phase 2, we focused in on school mascots, logos, and colors. So the groups for this phase initially met in a single meeting in February of 2020 and kind of just explored with Murmur's team the school identities and what was really important for them to be represented in this work for their individual schools. You know, we wanted, setting out our overall goal was to have a cohesion across the district, but also really honoring each school's individual identity. So that was really important to have happen during phase 2. Following that, we used the model that we had used at the district level work of doing email feedback rounds. So this became really important, and I'll kind of hone in on it here. We had really fine-tuned the approach of Murmur sending us PDF materials. We would email that to our work groups. They would have a chance to weigh in, and using Google Docs provide detailed feedback, which we would then send back to Murmur. So we were able to create this nice digital back and forth effect, which really came in handy in March as we were finishing phase 2 and everything came to a screeching halt because, of course, there was a pandemic. So we were really glad that we had refined that process prior to the school closures because it really helped us to move forward in completing this work in spite of all the challenges we were facing. So now I'm going to discuss some key takeaways, just observations and things that came up throughout the process. So first are just some really kind of important considerations that we had along the way. For our mission and vision statement, equity was certainly an important goal and focus. It was also important to all of us that these statements be student focused. When we got the first draft, for example, of our mission statement, it wasn't clear that students were a part of that statement, and that was our most important piece of feedback that we sent back to our consultant, and they did a lot of work to refine that and make sure that that importance of students came through. Another element was the importance, again, of relationships that our district has with the community of Sherwood, as well as our students and staff and families. It was really important to all the members of that work group, in particular, that that was included in that mission statement. In coming up with the district logo, some of the considerations was to look at our current logo and think about how do we honor what we've already had, but move forward into something new, and trying to find that balance of old versus new. Additionally, we knew that whatever logo we came up with needed to be timeless and professional. We didn't want something that was going to be so trendy that it would be dated in 5 to 10 years and we would have to revisit this process. The most important thing I think that came out was also having something really recognizable and unique. It came up several times in this work group that they wanted something that was distinctly Sherwood, that people could look at and say, oh, that's Sherwood School District, and not have it look like every other logo or brand out there. So we did a lot of looking at other organizations and businesses and really making sure that our focus was on something that was unique but yet timeless. For the school names, mascots, logos, and colors, the considerations were a little different. We wanted to really approach each school individually because each school has a separate situation. So for example, at EST, you have a new elementary school with a completely new name, whereas at RST, you're taking an existing school and just expanding it into the second half of the building. With the middle school, you have two schools coming together in a unified school. And then at the high school, we're not changing the mascot and we don't want a drastically different logo. So there's, how do you refine and get something new and fresh without completely overriding the old logo? It also came up during this process as we moved to a single middle school within the district, wanting a connection and a bridge between our middle school and our high school. And some of those elements really came through in the logo design that you'll see here in a moment. For our work groups, one thing that needs to be called out is all members of all of our work groups were really highly engaged, and they really should be commended for the work that they did. It was a lot of work and a lot of hours, and across the board, our work group members did an excellent job representing their stakeholder groups. They were really committed to big picture thinking and thinking about the impact of their decisions on students, staff, and community members. The focus on students just kind of came through in all of their work. And meetings and conversations through email across the board. And then of course, with any project this large, there's always going to be challenges. A lot of the district level challenges had to do with timing, making sure that things were going slow enough to be handled correctly and to land on the right decisions, but fast enough that we could get decisions made and move forward. We also, finding consensus when you're developing a logo across a group, even a smaller group, when you have different colors and different styles, it's very tricky. And that also played out in the school logo development as well. But again, across the board, our work groups just worked really hard to stay on task and move things forward and come to unified decisions so that we can meet our deadlines. For the transformation schools, I think the biggest challenge, again, was just the closure of schools and how we dealt with that pandemic response. I want to give credit right now to the administrators, the principals of those schools, because they really took the lead and made sure that their group stayed engaged remotely and that staff were responsive and that we were able to kind of keep those decisions moving forward and get them to the board in time for an April approval. And now I'm going to share with you our adopted recommendations. So here you can see our mission and vision statements. Our mission is to provide a diverse community of learning that supports every student in achieving their fullest potential. We achieve this by building meaningful relationships, addressing the unique needs of each and every student, and fostering a culture of shared excellence. That's our mission statement. And our vision statement is all students are prepared for a lifetime of learning. And here we have some variations of our new district logo. So as you can see, there's a few elements here. One is a mountain, and that is kind of harkens to our previous logo. We wanted to, again, have a little bit of familiarity while not having it look exactly the same. We also have a book in the logo representing education and the quill kind of tying it all together. And when it's all put together like that, you get this great Robin Hood hat effect. And that, I think we can all agree, is uniquely Sherwood. It helps tie us to, our relationship to the community. It ties into something that's just such a theme here. And as the only school district in this city, we thought that was a really great way to, have that be part of that logo. So here we have the logo package for the Sherwood High School. So for the high school, we really had to think about what are all the different ways that branding elements would get used. Everything from print materials to swag to athletics gear. And so we needed to create a very flexible and broad expanse of options while keeping everything on brand and cohesive with a similar look and feel. So you can see we stuck with the archer or the bowman, the bowman, and just did a little bit of refresh on how that character looked. Same color, still having options for the S, and then creating some variations specific to Sherwood High School, Sherwood Bowman, as well as some various options for our athletic teams to use going forward. For Sherwood Middle School, they selected the mascot of the Archer. So this is one way that they're bridging that connection again between the middle school and the high school. They did, however, want their logo to be unique and stand apart. And so what we've landed on here is I apologize, I forget the exact name, but it's the bag where the arrows are held, and then you have the bow as well with that S in the middle, which can be pulled out for a shield variation. And they chose to use the same colors as the high school, which is another connection point between middle and high school as well. At our board meeting where we shared these recommendations, Marianne Funderheide, the middle school principal, shared that her team has also identified that the 3 arrows in the quiver represent the 3 grade levels at the middle school. And then on the variation where you have the 2 arrows crossing behind the shield, that represents the 2 middle schools coming together. So they really thought about the metaphors behind some of the imagery in their logo package, which was really interesting to see.
I believe, Christine, it's called a quiver.
Yes, thank you. I caught it partway through, but I appreciate that.
Okay.
So here we have Ridges. So Ridge Elementary is former ED Ridge, and they stuck with the same mascot of the wolf, and then also stayed with a very similar color palette to provide some familiarity. They did move from ED Ridge to Ridges because they wanted a name that was going to really capture, you know, having these 2 wings of this single building and honoring what the school had already been, but still moving towards something new to really kind of capture what is happening in that transformation. They really, that group in particular, wanted something that was very kid friendly and wanted the wolf to look more like a pup. And also thinking about typography that would be familiar and easy for elementary kids to read. And then we have Hawksview Elementary. So this is our former Hopkins. This is the school that was not able to keep their name because the name stays with the building as per board policy. So they decided to stick with the hawk mascot and keep the mascot the same, which is the same as Ridges did with theirs. But by doing that, they were able to find a new school name that brings in that mascot and ties it in. They also liked the idea of the hawk soaring over, and that serves as a metaphor for helping our students to succeed. And as they were designing their logo, it was really important that the hawk graphic actually looked like it was soaring as well. Unlike the other elementary school, they wanted a graphic that was a little more realistic, and they wanted, again, typography that was very easy for elementary students to read. This group also did a little research into colors, and one of their staff members found out that the color blue symbolizes knowledge, integrity, wisdom, confidence, and it also has a calming effect. So they chose to add blue to their color palette. They didn't, however, want red, white, and blue, so instead of keeping the previous red, they moved towards more of a terracotta color to match with their blue. Okay, so those are our recommendations. Now moving into a sneak peek at our website design. So we are also working with Murmur to redesign our website to create a more user-friendly experience, to make it ADA compliant, and just to really clean up what we have. So this is very draft form, but you can see here some of the imagery that we're starting to work on as we create that new website. So we'll have some drop-down menus across the top, really clean fonts, and you can see they're going to integrate in the colors that match our logos. This will also be true for the school pages as well. So the schools that went through rebranding will have a color palette on their website that matches their logo package. For our 2 schools that did not go through rebranding, we're working with Murmur to make sure that their pages look really clean and cohesive and still use the colors that they already had existing. And so just some other elements. We're going to clean up our news and announcements page so that things are easier to find. We'll actually have a communications landing page, so all of our various forms of communication will be housed on one page on the website, which will just make it a little easier for folks to know where to go to find the information that they need. And then we'll have some cleanup around things like posting agendas for meetings and how you can find those using things like drop-down menus to search by year, for example. So we're really excited about that. The work is continuing right now. Murmur is working on all of the back-end functionality, and we expect our technology team to have the the website handed over soon so we can do our final editing and cleanup. And again, aiming for that July 1 date to go live prior to the start of the next school year. All right, that's my presentation. Are there any questions?
That looks great. So I assume that I participated in a couple of those surveys as a parent, and it looks like it was decided to keep the Sherwood Middle School name.
Yes. So we had originally, the first round of surveys we sent out, we hadn't included Sherwood Middle School, but based on a lot of the feedback we got, we sent out a second round of surveys to revisit folks' interests. There was a thought that having two existing middle schools coming into one, if you take an existing name, what does that erase the identity of the other school? What's the impact for that other school population and their relationship to their school identity? But when we sent that second survey out, across the board, all stakeholder groups had a very strong preference for Sherwood Middle School, and so that is the name that group moved forward with.
That's great. Yeah, that actually happened to be my opinion as well. So I was just wondering about the decision process, but it looks great. I think it does look very clean and crisp. I love the new color palettes. So I look forward to buying a whole bunch of new sweatshirts and the new logos. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Great job.
All right. Any other? Okay, so we're going to move on to the construction site tour. I assume that's construction, but maybe construction is the new cool way to say it.
Taylor, this is Jim. I think it's actually a brand name of an application that you're going to walk us through. Brenda, if you would, please.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen here. Bear with me. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to giving you a virtual tour of the Sherwood High School. That's what the construction site tour is. As Rick was talking about earlier, we've had to sort of expand our arsenal of tools that we look at in order to kind of oversee construction and minimize the amount of folks on site. Construction site is one of those tools that we're using in conjunction with Skanska. It is tied to the system that they use for kind of managing all the contract documents. So it's been fairly easy for us to sort of understand. We're able to do field reports with it and basically get an update every time a new 360-degree photograph is taken of the site. We're using a similar program for the district office transformation and for the elementary school transformation. So what we thought would be good to, since it's been a while since we've all been together out at the job site, is just to walk you through kind of the environment out there. Some of these photos are older than others, but it gives you a good idea of what's out there. So this is standing at the main entry to the school, looking out towards the parking lot. You'll see that now both parking lots at the front of the school are paved. We're starting to get the entry road in. You're starting to see the covered walkway at the beginning, at the entry to the school. Actually, today we saw some new photographs that the sheet metal, which was one of those products that was impacted by COVID delays, has been delivered and installed, and the Sherwood High School brand just got put on the building as well. So now we're going to walk into the main entry vestibule. So if you look back, this is a view that looks out towards the main entry, kind of where we just walked in under that covered play area. This is where we will be entering admin. This is a secure entry vestibule. So during normal operation, during non-arrival and dismissal times, these doors will be open. These doors will be closed, and you will have to check in the main admin area there. So now we'll proceed through those doors into the formal sort of foyer of the school. So you can start to see the branding, if you will, of the administrative offices. This is the forest wing. You'll start to see some of those look across the commons and other areas, but you've got the main office, attendance, business, and then counseling. So providing kind of unique wayfinding. This is looking back towards that entry vestibule, looking towards the ball field, so the football stadium. You'll see as I make my way around the building, kind of the amphitheater that leads up to the commons, and then the doorway that leads out to the courtyard, as well as a passageway to the learning neighborhoods. So we will now move to the learning neighborhoods. You can start to see the corridors. So this is now on the 3rd floor. We were on the 2nd floor. We've jumped up a level, but fairly typical view here as to what you'll see in a lot of these. I'm gonna call them corridors, even though they're not really corridors. A lot of connectivity between the classrooms and the extended learning areas that you see here. Small group rooms. I'll kind of work our way further up that exact same corridor. So you can see now we're in that extended learning area. This is a small group project room. The roof deck here that overlooks the front of the school, and then looking back towards some of the structure that has been expressed through the building. You're starting to see kind of signage that leads you to where each wing has a different color, and it has a different kind of mascot, for lack of a better term. This is the mountain wing. So you can see that here we have the coast wing and the forest wing that kind of gives us our home and your wayfinding through the school. Okay. Another, so this is a extended learning area. Further down that corridor, you can start to see kind of the feel for what that looks like. This is a typical classroom, so that you can see the views from the 3rd floor are going to be phenomenal. This is a general education classroom. Not much built into these classrooms. We're trying to keep them as agile and flexible as possible. So the majority of storage things in this room will be on casters, so furniture, and that furniture that Rick and the team were talking about that starts to arrive in late June for classrooms. So you do have some casework in the classrooms, obviously more casework in science classrooms, but general education classrooms are pretty clean, connected to the corridors, and then also providing a lot of ambient light kind of to those spaces that can otherwise feel really dark. If you look at areas in the existing high school that could have benefited kind of from that same sort of philosophy of providing natural light. We're now at the end of that corridor, which is where we have that 4-story wing called Cascade Point. You can again see the views. This is now this is what happened when we had that COVID sort of delay in getting these windows in. That has been cleared. I'll show you a fly through the site later that will show you that these windows have since gone in. And it's unfortunate because they block a beautiful view of the Cascades, hence the name. And then the idea is that this serves not only as a 4-story circulating stair that connects all floors of the building, but also as a gathering spot for students, kind of an extended learning area, a more informal learning area that's pretty spectacular. So you start to see pockets in that where kids can gather. This is where they kind of connect up and connect down as they make their way across the building. Now we're going back down that wing and crossing the sky bridge, essentially. So we can get to the athletics and academic part. So you can see the fence that kind of encloses that courtyard has been installed. You can start to see some of the fields. The courtyard here. I'll pan ahead a little bit, but this is basically the covered bridge that connects you. So here we are. We can start to see almost all of the landscape is complete here. Again, kind of a meandering path with plinths and areas that kind of markate where you are in the world, right? The elevation, for example, of the Cascades as it relates to elements in the building, both here and then beyond this way. You start to see where the logs are that create some of the seating beyond that area. We've now made our way into what we call Sector A and B, which is the library and athletic and academic wing. So we're on the lower level of a 2-story library, essentially. There will be another big wood wall here. The views from this library are spectacular, out onto one of the multi-use fields, back out into the stadium, and then also connecting up to the second floor. Small project rooms here, kind of a genius bar that kids can hang out from above. So kind of an abundance of informal learning spaces that align with kind of the more formal learning spaces. So the second story perch to that library is kind of at the end of this hallway. We're making our way back down towards the commons with classrooms and extended learning on one side. And then this is where you start to get the sneak peek down into the gyms from the 3rd level. So you can start to see this is essentially the elevated running track. This is the beginning of the bleachers that extend into the auxiliary gym. You can also see windows to the auxiliary gym here. I just did not want to stop there because there's so much to see. We're going to jump down now to that main floor level for the main gym. So you can see, sorry, it's getting, let me give it a chance to catch up here. So you can see that elevated running track. We were basically standing up here looking down into the space. We have, this is the wall mats were another one that we're having difficulty getting installed, again, with that 6-foot requirement in terms of social distancing. So they eventually were able to find that way around that, and Skanska was able to have their subs get that installed this week, actually. So you can see this is the side that faces the commons, and then the home of the Bowman, and looking back towards the auxiliary gym where we have the branded bleachers. We're almost there, guys. So continuing on that 3rd floor, sorry, this is now on the 2nd floor. This is the extension of that that entry foyer. So when we started our tour, we were here. We were looking towards the stadium, which is just outside this door. It's really bright. There's a 3rd story bridge, both on this side of the building as well as this side of the building, that connect back to those classroom wings. But really kind of the focus here is this main amphitheater stair that provides for a place of gathering and performance, as well as a way to get up onto the commons. So now we are officially in the commons, looking back towards that same area. Again, this is another area that will get wood paneling along this wall. This side is where we have what's called the C-store, sort of the convenience store, snack bar for students, as well as staff, the staff dining and lounge area. You can start to see more of the graphics that are starting to get installed, as well as the beginnings of the wood slat wall that provides the demarcation between the theater and the commons here. Unfortunately, these doors were down when this photograph was taken, but behind there, all of the food service equipment is installed. It's getting ready to be commissioned, as well as the culinary arts equipment that goes in culinary arts kitchen and culinary arts classroom. So now we're going to go into the theater. The theater is the one that kind of has the most bells and whistles. So it is the one that's also probably the last one to finish up. We are now, near the top of the theater. Looks a little different than the existing high school theater. About 600 seats to refresh your memory. The seats you'll see in the photograph taken from the stage have now been covered up to allow for the installation of kind of the wood paneling that covers these articulated walls to provide the acoustic attenuation, as well as the angles to provide speakers and light control. All of the layers of the catwalk have been installed, so we have the ability to kind of start to install all of the performance lighting that needs to be installed as part of the theatrical systems. So now I'm standing on the stage, or Josh was standing when he took the photograph. You can see the orchestra pit as well as the main house and some of that paneling that's starting to be installed. So you can start to see some of that here. And this one is shooting for kind of middle to end of June in terms of that final fit and finish. Wanted to show you some of the music spaces as well. This is the choir classroom, as sort of indicated by the raised risers, concrete risers for choral teaching / learning, an office, and then the band classroom adjacent to that, and drama on the other side. So kind of the drama, band, and choir that form kind of the back of house area to the performing arts. And finally, we're going to go outside to that courtyard between the buildings. So looking back now, you can start to see those sort of logs seating that was created kind of at the foot underneath and in front of the Sky Bridge. This is turf because we knew that it would never survive as grass. And also because we knew that when the future wing would be installed, that we didn't want people having to come in here with mowers to get to that. So again, you can start to see these giant monoliths that sort of start to create that story of kind of the site. Beautiful at night. These light up and you get some really nice sort of flagstone concrete risers. You start to again see those elevations of where the cascades are and how that relates to kind of Cascade Point and the areas that we have in the building. There's a big gathering spot kind of up at level 2, and through those doors is that main sort of foyer entrance that is the connection point between the front of the school and the back of the school. Oh. So one last thing I want to show you is the aerial flyover of the site. Pardon the music that they choose, but you can start to see again. This was taken, I think, on Saturday. So you can start to see all the brickwork has been completed. The back of house is starting to get installed. So this is the service yard. Trash compactors, all of that. You can see all of the parking lots are fully paved. Sorry, I'm going to take that music off. All the parking lots are fully paved. All of the turf areas have been installed. So not only the main stadium turf, but the multi-use fields, both here and on the west side. The stadium bleachers are in, the visiting bleachers. We're starting to see, as we pan around the buildings, batting cages, concessions, ticket booths that are around the fields installed. This is the multi-use field, what we call multi-use field west, that kind of anchors the site in the corner. This is the gym, that library that we were talking about that has those incredible views. This is the courtyard here with that connecting bridge. Cascade Point, you can see that now those windows have been installed there. This is the shop wing, so all the CTE spaces here. You can start to see footings for a future greenhouse that is currently being installed as well. And then we're back to kind of the ship entry and art courtyard that is down here. And we'll stop here as we get to the front door. Any questions?
This is Taylor. I don't want to speak for everybody, but we could watch those all day. I love seeing those pictures. It is really amazing, and you know, both. I mean, it's a beautiful building. It really is. I think it's you've built something that the city will be proud about for generations, and so you know, it's beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. It was our pleasure. It's been a great team out there.
Any other comments from the board or questions?
Nope, looks great.
Okay. Are there so the Struction site are those aren't publicly available, right? Those are
no, those are not publicly available. The video
the flyby was okay.
The video, the flyover. I think the district tends to put those up on their website regularly as they get updated. But we have, and the district will receive from the contractor, I think by this point, millions of photographs, as well as kind of some of those 3D. So you'll be able to tell the story of construction through time lapses for years to come.
Great.
Yeah, this is Jim. Those videos are posted on our bond website every time we get one. And then we've had some additional videos made. So I think you've all seen the time lapse that kind of come up from the ground up, and it's really quite cool. And we'll continue to do that as we move forward.
Yep. No, I love it. I just, you know, some of those pictures I had never seen before. And so but I've seen them now. So thank you. All right. You guys still hear me? Everybody is frozen on my screen.
Yes, we can hear you, Taylor.
Okay. I cannot change anything on my screen. So is there anything else left on the agenda? Board update comments. Is that the next thing?
Yes, it's the board report input from committee members to you for what should go into the report.
Okay, well, I cannot tab over to my notes that I was taking, so I'm going to do this from memory, but I made specific comment of the employees doing the self-move and saving money, the planning made for COVID hardships that we were planning for but have not had to yet necessarily pay for yet. I made a comment about still being, you know, some delays on the county road, but still being confident that it will be open at the beginning of summer. Let's see, there might have been one or two others. Were there any others for Chad or Eric? Do you have any others you would add to that? I haven't written about the pictures yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Eric. I was just going to say, I think it's important to point out that it was a benefit to the district that the transformations were able to start early.
That's a great point. Yep, I'll add that in. I also actually, before my screen froze, I did make a comment about the rebranding stuff, and just that, you know, that we saw it and we're excited about it. I'll probably include a statement about the photos and you know, everything looking like it's on track, even given the workarounds that people have had to have. Chad, you got anything for me?
I was going to expand on what Eric was saying. I think part of the reason they were able to start early on those transformation projects is because they put things out to bid early as well. So that was, one thing led to another on providing opportunity there, and the smart thinking that went into doing that early paid off. I wanted to clarify, I don't know if I misheard earlier, but I thought Rich said that the high school was planned to be done by the end of May, but that doesn't seem right. Was it May or June? Because he said we're extending the schedule one more time, and then I thought he said May, but I wasn't sure.
No, we're extending it to the end of June now.
Okay. That's what I thought you meant to say, or maybe what you said and I didn't hear. So Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So, I think overall is the budget staying within budget and even on schedule, being able to accommodate schedule delays, but we're still delivering with the overall schedule in mind. So it's good.
All right, great. I will make sure to add that in on the report. Yeah, it's impressive. And to your point, I think that there's an element of making our own luck there. Rick and team, with putting it out to bid early, we were able to absorb some of the uncertainty that came with the pandemic. So thank you. Any other comments that anybody would like me to add to the report?
I have one, if you'd consider it, Taylor. The city has worked to be a better partner. The permits that they've helped us get for the transformations has been meaningful, and Jim and I and Ken met with the city a couple of times and just shared with them that if there were permit delays, the ripple effect of that could be significant. So it might make some sense that we appreciate the city and their effort to help us process permits on time to get us started on time.
Okay, absolutely. Always willing to call out areas where we're working better together. All right. Anything else? Okay. If somebody's got their agenda in front of you, is that the last item on the agenda?
This is Jim. That's the last item. Just a reminder, future meeting dates are at the bottom of the agenda. August 9th and November 18th are the two that are coming up.
Okay, and I assume that we will also get, as the district is makes the definite plans for the August ribbon cutting and different things, we'll get info on those as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Do I need to move to close the meeting, or can we just close it?
You can just adjourn it.
All right. Great. It doesn't look like we have a quorum yet. I think we need one more person to approve the meeting minutes. So we will hope to do that next time. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for the reports. I know I get asked about the school more and more as people are maybe they're taking to email more and things like that. So I appreciate that I can give them some updates. Have a great rest of your week. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.